I'm tired of pretending Harper is just going through a phase. My brother's voice cut through the dining room like a knife. He leaned back in his chair, arms crossed, looking at everyone except me. She's 29 years old. She's broke. She jumps from job to job. At some point, we have to be honest. She's a failure. The word landed like a physical blow. My aunt gasped softly. My mother stared at her plate. My father cleared his throat but said nothing to correct him. And my brother, Nolan, smirked. We were at what he'd called a family financial planning meeting. He'd sent a formal email asking everyone to gather at our parents' house to discuss investment strategies. Instead, he'd turned it into a public dissection of my life. I felt every eye on me. My hands gripped my water glass so tightly I thought it might shatter. That was the moment something inside me broke. My name is Harper Quinn. I was 29 years old, sitting at my family's table, being humiliated in front of everyone I'd grown up with. That was the night I stopped trying to earn love from people who'd already decided who I was. Nolan didn't stop at calling me a failure. He actually pulled up slides on his laptop. PowerPoint slides he'd prepared in advance. My projected earnings this year are $200,000, he announced, clicking to show a graph. I've diversified my portfolio across 3 investment vehicles. Meanwhile, Harper is still freelancing with no retirement savings, no health insurance, and no real career plan. My mother nodded slightly, like she agreed with his assessment. I realized in that moment this wasn't spontaneous criticism. He had prepared this presentation. He'd spent time making charts and graphs about my inadequacy. He wanted witnesses to my humiliation. After everyone left, I stood in the kitchen getting water while Nolan talked to our mother in the hallway. I heard her whisper, "You're right. She needs a wake-up call. Maybe this will motivate her." I'd never been the daughter who made them proud, the daughter they bragged about at parties, but I would become the woman they couldn't ignore. And I already knew exactly what Nolan had underestimated. A year earlier, Nolan had laughed at my work. We'd been at a coffee shop, and he'd asked what I was doing for income. "I create and sell digital templates online," I'd said. "Planners, resume templates, social media graphics, things like that." He'd actually laughed out loud. "You sell clip art? That's not a business, Harper. That's a hobby. It's cute." Cute. The word had stung then. But he'd moved on quickly to talking about his real estate investments and stock portfolio. What he didn't know was that while he invested in flashy startups and risky ventures, I was studying, learning everything I could about e-commerce, digital marketing, consumer psychology, and brand building. I wasn't broke. I was building something quietly. My income was inconsistent, yes. Some months I made $300. Other months, $2,000. But I was learning, testing, growing. The night of the family meeting, I didn't cry. I went home, opened my laptop, and made a decision. If I was going to be called a failure, I would fail forward. And I knew exactly what to do next. I stopped explaining myself to my family. Stopped attending Sunday dinners where I'd be questioned about my career plans. Stopped updating anyone on my progress or setbacks. If they believed Nolan's version of me, fine. Let them. Silence became my strategy. Meanwhile, I reinvested every dollar I earned. I took online courses at 2 in the morning after finishing client work. I learned about sales funnels, email marketing, and automated systems. I studied successful digital entrepreneurs. I tested different products. I analyzed what sold and what didn't. 6 months after that family meeting, my monthly income quietly surpassed what I'd made at my last full-time job. No one in my family knew. I didn't post about it on social media. Didn't mention it in passing. Just worked in silence. Especially not Nolan. But I started noticing things. Small things that suggested cracks were forming in his perfect empire. At a family barbecue I reluctantly attended, I overheard him on the phone outside. "No, the investors just need more time to see returns. The market is temporarily down." More time. Temporarily. Those words meant something different than he wanted them to. I kept building. 7 months after the meeting, I launched a new product line. Premium planner templates with coaching modules included. I spent 3 weeks perfecting them, testing with a small group, refining based on feedback. When I launched, I did a small marketing push. Nothing huge. Just targeted ads and an email to my small but growing list. The product sold out in 48 hours. I sat at my laptop watching the sales dashboard tick upward. Orders from strangers who valued my work. People who paid money because they believed what I created was worth it. I made $11,000 in 2 days. More than I'd made in any single month before. I didn't tell anyone. But that same week, Nolan posted on social media about the importance of long-term stability in volatile markets. The kind of post people make when they're trying to convince themselves everything is fine. I noticed the comments weren't as enthusiastic as they used to be. People were asking questions, expressing concern. His perfect image was starting to wobble. My father called me unexpectedly one evening. "Have you talked to your brother recently?" he asked. His voice sounded tight, stressed. "Not really," I said honestly. "Well, he's going through a temporary setback. One of his major investments hit some liquidity issues. Nothing serious, but it's causing some cash flow problems." Temporary. That word again. "I'm sorry to hear that," I said carefully. "He's handling it," my father assured me quickly. "He's smart with money. Not like—" He stopped himself. "Not like me." That's what he'd been about to say. "Sometimes setbacks are feedback," I said quietly. "Maybe it's an opportunity to reassess strategy." Silence on the other end. Then my father changed the subject. For the first time in my life, I wasn't the one they were worried about. The family dynamic was shifting, and no one had noticed yet except me. I went back to work. I had a new course to finish creating, a collaboration to finalize, revenue streams to diversify. While Nolan dealt with his temporary setback, I was building something permanent. I moved into a better apartment 2 months later. Nothing extravagant. Just a clean one-bedroom in a safer neighborhood with actual parking and natural light. I paid the deposit and first month's rent in cash. No loan. No help. I didn't announce it. Didn't post photos. Just moved my things on a quiet Saturday with help from 2 friends. When my mother showed up unexpectedly the following week, she stood in the doorway blinking at the space. "This is nice," she said slowly. "How are you affording this? The rent here must be expensive." "I budget carefully," I said simply. "And my income has been growing." She looked around again, clearly trying to reconcile this apartment with the broke freelancer narrative Nolan had painted. She didn't ask more questions, just complimented my furniture choices and left after 20 minutes. That night, Nolan texted me. "Mom says you moved. Living above your means." I stared at the message for a long moment. He still thought I was pretending, still believed I was struggling and hiding it. I didn't respond. Let him think whatever he wanted. Word spread through family channels that Nolan was hosting an investor dinner, a formal event at an upscale restaurant. He was trying to secure funding for a new venture. I wasn't invited, but through my own network, the one I'd been building in the online business world, I heard whispers. Nolan's big real estate project was over-leveraged. He'd borrowed heavily expecting quick returns that hadn't materialized. The investor dinner was actually a rescue mission. I didn't gloat. I worked. That same month, I launched another digital product. A complete business template bundle for new entrepreneurs. It sold consistently. Not explosive growth, but steady. Reliable. I watched my bank account grow while imagining Nolan's polished speech about strategic long-term investments. Stability isn't loud. It doesn't require investor dinners and formal presentations. It's just consistent progress over time. And his stability was crumbling while mine was solidifying. I got invited to speak on a small entrepreneurship panel at a local business conference. Building sustainable digital income streams was the topic. I almost declined. Public speaking terrified me. And what if my family found out? Then I remembered the PowerPoint slides. The word failure, spoken with such confidence. I accepted. The panel was small. Maybe 70 people in the audience. I was one of 4 speakers. I talked about starting with no budget, about testing and failing and learning, about building systems that worked while you slept. I shared actual numbers. My first month, I'd made $83. My best month so far, I'd made $18,000. The audience leaned forward, asked questions, took notes. After the panel, people lined up to talk to me. How did you start? What platform do you use? Would you consider mentoring? I realized something standing there. I wasn't the underdog anymore. I was proof that quiet, consistent work wins. And someone in the back of that room was recording. The video clip from the panel went viral in our city's business community. Not massive viral, but within our local entrepreneur circles, it spread. My inbox filled with questions, collaboration requests, interview invitations. A local business blog reached out for a feature article. From freelancer to six-figure digital entrepreneur. I almost said no, but I'd spent too long hiding. The article published 3 weeks later with my photo and story. My phone exploded with notifications. Former classmates, old colleagues, acquaintances from years ago, and one message that made my stomach drop. Congrats on the article. Impressive. From Nolan. Short, casual, like nothing had happened. Like he hadn't called me a failure in front of our entire family. I stared at the screen for 5 minutes. He never apologized. Never acknowledged what he'd said. Just this performative congratulations. I replied with one word, thanks. Controlled. Neutral. Giving him nothing. The power dynamic had shifted, and he could feel it. 2 weeks later, he showed up at my apartment. I opened the door and found Nolan standing there looking smaller than I remembered. No expensive watch. No perfectly pressed suit. Just jeans and a wrinkled button-down. Hey, he said. Can I come in? I stepped aside without speaking. He walked into my apartment, the same kind he'd implied I could never afford, and his eyes scanned everything. The furniture I'd bought, the artwork on the walls, the laptop setup where I ran my business. For the first time in our lives, he didn't look superior. He looked nervous. Nice place, he said finally. Thanks. An awkward silence stretched between us. I saw your article, he continued. You're doing really well. I'm doing okay, I said carefully. He nodded, shifting his weight. Listen, Harper. I need to talk to you about something. Of course you do. I gestured to the couch. We sat. He took a breath. I'm in a tight spot financially. Just temporary, but I need to stabilize some things. Stabilize. There was that word again. I need a short-term loan, he said quickly. Just to bridge a gap until my investments come through. How much? I asked calmly. He named a number. $35,000. A year ago, that amount would have been impossible for me. Laughable. Now I had it. I'd saved aggressively, reinvested carefully, and built multiple income streams. I could technically write him a check right now. And he knew it. That's why he was here. That's a lot of money, I said. I know. But I'll pay you back with interest. 10%. And it's just for a few months until the real estate deal closes. He spoke quickly, confidently, like this was a business transaction, not him asking his failure sister for rescue. Do you remember the family meeting? I asked quietly. He stopped mid-sentence. What? The meeting you called, where you made PowerPoint slides about my life. His face changed. Harper, that was just tough love. I was trying to motivate you. Tough love doesn't come with spreadsheets, I said. He shifted uncomfortably. I was worried about you. We all were. No, I said. You were performing. You wanted everyone to see how successful you were by comparison. Silence filled my apartment. He didn't apologize. Instead, he justified. You were stuck, he said. You needed a push. And look, it worked. You're successful now. I felt something cold settle in my chest. He genuinely believed he deserved credit for my success, that his humiliation had motivated me. You didn't build me, I said quietly. You revealed yourself. What's that supposed to mean? It means I learned exactly who you were that night, and I built my business in spite of you, not because of you. He stood up, frustrated. So this is about revenge? I come to you for help and you're going to hold a grudge. This isn't revenge, I said, standing as well. This is boundaries. Boundaries. He laughed bitterly. We're family, Harper. Family doesn't humiliate each other in front of relatives. I was being honest. You were being cruel, I corrected. And now you want access to the success you mocked. His jaw tightened. So your answer is no? My answer is no. He stared at me like I'd slapped him. You're really going to do this? He asked. Let me struggle while you sit on money you don't even need? I need every dollar I have, I said. I'm reinvesting in my business, building emergency funds, planning for the future you said I was too irresponsible to have. I never said that. You showed slides about it. He ran his hand through his hair, agitated. Fine. You want an apology? I apologize. I was too harsh. Now will you help me? The apology felt hollow, transactional. No, I said again. His composure cracked. You wouldn't even have ambition if it wasn't for me pushing you. I lit a fire under you. There it was. The real belief underneath everything. He needed to think he'd built me, that my success was somehow his creation. You didn't light a fire, I said. You showed me exactly what I was running from. What does that even mean? It means I built this life so I'd never need your approval again. The words hung between us. His face reddened. So this is who you are now? Successful and cold. No, I said quietly. This is who I always was. You just never saw it. He left without slamming the door. But the tension lingered like smoke in my apartment. I sat on my couch waiting for guilt to hit, waiting to feel bad for turning him down. It didn't come. What came instead was clarity. I wasn't responsible for rescuing someone who'd tried to destroy my confidence, who'd used me as a prop to make himself look better. Boundaries feel like betrayal to people who benefited from you having none. I made tea and opened my laptop. I had work to do, a new course to finish, client projects to complete. Nolan's financial crisis wasn't my emergency. Over the next few months, I heard through family channels that things got worse for him. The real estate deal fell through. Investors pulled out. He had to sell his condo and move to a smaller apartment. The same relatives who'd nodded along to his presentation about my failures started whispering about his. But no one whispered about me anymore. They asked for business advice instead. 3 months after Nolan's visit, we had another family gathering. My mother's birthday. I couldn't avoid it without causing more drama than it was worth. I showed up with a gift and low expectations. The energy was different than before. My aunt asked about my digital products business. My uncle wanted to know if I could help his friend's daughter who was starting an online shop. My mother asked about marketing strategies for her friend's small business. Nolan stayed quiet in the corner. No slides this time. No comparisons. No performance. Just silence. I wasn't vindictive. Didn't gloat or make pointed comments. I was just composed. Professional. Helpful when asked. And composure is intimidating when people expect bitterness. Later, my father pulled me aside. "Your brother is going through a rough patch," he said. "I hope you two can work things out." "There's nothing to work out," I said. "I'm living my life. He's living his." "But your family." "Family isn't obligation," I said gently. "It's choice. And I'm choosing to protect my peace." My father looked uncomfortable but didn't argue. Word continued spreading about my work, about my growth, about how I'd built from nothing. The irony wasn't lost on me. The failure had become the stable one, the one people asked for advice. A local women's business group invited me to speak. Then a community college asked me to guest lecture. Each opportunity led to more connections, more clients, more growth. My income stabilized at levels I'd never imagined possible. I wasn't rich, but I was secure, genuinely secure. And security, I learned, is a different kind of power. Not the flashy power Nolan had performed, but the quiet power of knowing you can handle whatever comes. I hired a financial advisor, started retirement accounts, made investments of my own, careful and researched ones. Everything Nolan had said I was too irresponsible to do, I was doing. I thought about that family meeting sometimes. The slides, the smirk, the word failure. It used to replay in my mind on loop, keeping me up at night. Now it felt distant, like a scene from someone else's life. The woman who sat at that table was gone. Nolan tried one more time. Not directly. Through our parents. My mother called. "Your brother is really struggling, Harper. He's too proud to ask again, but he needs help." "I know," I said. "And you won't help him?" "I can't help someone who doesn't respect me." "He's your brother." "He called me a failure in front of our entire family," I said calmly. "He prepared slides about my inadequacy. He humiliated me deliberately." Silence. "He said he apologized," my mother said finally. "He said sorry because he wanted money, not because he meant it." "So you're just going to hold a grudge forever?" "I'm going to have boundaries," I corrected. "There's a difference." My mother sighed. "I don't understand you anymore, Harper." "That's okay," I said. "I understand myself. That's what matters." We hung up shortly after. I felt sad, but not guilty. Some people will never understand that self-respect isn't selfishness. Months passed without contact from Nolan. I heard through family updates that he'd found a job. Nothing glamorous. Just steady income while he rebuilt. He downsized his lifestyle. sold his expensive car, moved in with a roommate. All the things he'd once judged me for, he was now doing himself. I didn't feel victorious about it, just neutral. His journey was his own. Mine was mine. They no longer intersected. My business continued growing. I hired a virtual assistant, then a second one. I created a group coaching program that sold out in days. I reached goals I'd written down years ago thinking they were impossible. And I did it without family support, without their belief, without their approval. Sometimes that was lonely, but it was also freeing, because success built alone belongs entirely to you. A year after Nolan had shown up at my apartment, I got an unexpected message. From him. I've been thinking about what you said, about how I revealed myself. You were right. I was cruel. And I'm sorry. Really sorry. Not because I want anything, just because you deserved better. I read it 3 times. It felt different than his first apology, less transactional. I didn't respond immediately. I sat with it. Forgiveness, I'd learned, wasn't required. But it was an option. After a few days, I replied, I appreciate that. I hope things improve for you. Short, honest, boundaried. He responded, they are. Slowly. I got a lot of things wrong. You got a lot of things right. We didn't become close after that. Didn't rebuild some magical sibling relationship. But the bitterness faded. He'd acknowledged the truth. That was enough. I could move forward without carrying his judgment anymore. I attended another family dinner months later. This time, there was no tension. Nolan and I were polite, distant but not hostile. He'd started his own small business. Consulting. Nothing flashy. How's it going? I asked. Slow, he admitted. But honest. I'm learning what you knew all along. That sustainable growth takes time. I nodded. It does. I was an idiot, he said quietly. At that meeting, I thought making myself look good required making you look bad. It did hurt, I said honestly. I know. And I'm sorry. This apology felt real. I accepted it. Not because we'd be best friends, but because holding on to anger only hurts the person carrying it. We moved to different conversations. The dynamic had shifted permanently. I wasn't the failure. He wasn't the golden child. We were just 2 people figuring life out differently. I realized something important that year. The validation I'd craved from my family had become irrelevant. I no longer needed them to see my worth. I saw it myself. The business I'd built wasn't about proving them wrong. It was about proving myself right. About trusting my instincts when no one else did. About betting on myself when the odds looked terrible. That meeting used to haunt me. The word failure echoed in my mind for months. Now it felt like evidence. Evidence that other people's opinions aren't prophecy. Evidence that you can build something meaningful from spite, then transform it into purpose. Evidence that the people who doubt you loudest are often dealing with their own insecurity. I stopped checking whether my family was proud of me. I just built what mattered. 2 years after that family meeting, I hit a milestone. My business generated its first 7-figure year in revenue. Not profit. Revenue. But still, it was a number I'd never imagined possible. I didn't post about it publicly. Didn't announce it at family gatherings. I just acknowledged it privately. Celebrated with the team I'd built. The virtual assistants and collaborators who'd helped make it possible. Success, I'd learned, didn't need an audience. It just needed to be real. My mother called that week. I heard from someone that your business is doing really well, she said carefully. It's going well, I confirmed. I'm proud of you, she said. The words I'd wanted to hear for so long. They felt nice, but they didn't complete me. I'd learned to be proud of myself. That was stronger. Thank you, I said simply. We talked about other things, normal things. The past wasn't erased, but it had stopped defining the present. I thought about writing this story 100 times, about sharing what happened, about Nolan's cruelty and my comeback. But revenge narratives are incomplete, because the real story isn't "I proved him wrong." It's "I proved myself right." I built a business that sustained me, that gave me purpose, that helped other people. I created a life I was proud of, not to spite anyone, but because I wanted it. The family meeting was painful. The humiliation was real. But it also gave me clarity. It showed me exactly who supported me and who didn't. It revealed who I could trust and who I needed boundaries with. And it taught me the most important lesson. Your worth isn't determined by who believes in you. It's determined by who you become despite who doesn't. If someone calls you a failure, let them. Sometimes that word is a gift. It shows you exactly who never believed in you. It reveals who needs you small to feel big. A year ago, I sat at a table feeling crushed. Today, I sit at my own table, built by my own hands, paid for with my own money. The most satisfying victory wasn't proving Nolan wrong. It was proving myself right. I am Harper Quinn, and I was never the failure. I was just becoming. Becoming someone who didn't need permission to succeed. Becoming someone who built boundaries instead of bridges to people who burned them. Becoming someone who understood that family is earned, not given. The woman who sat at that meeting is gone. The woman who remained built something they couldn't diminish. And when my brother came back asking for help, I didn't raise my voice. I raised my standards. Because forgiveness doesn't require access. And boundaries aren't betrayal. They're survival. I survived. Then I thrived. And that's the whole story.